Hello folks, it's Emilia here from Bullet Journal Engineer back again with another theme. Today we will learn how to make a beautiful cherry blossom with just 2 markers. You need water-based markers. I use Art and Graphic Twin as you know, which also have a soft tip for my convenience, but if you only have a hard tip markers like the regular ones, it's not a problem either. But before we start with the coloring, I want to show you how I actually design a cover page, because I've never actually showed this, I just start drawing right away. Of course, I first open on the page and I start sketching with a pen. I had a couple of ideas for this cover page. At first, I thought that I want to have a big tree right here, and in the middle of the page a calendar, many cherry blossoms right here on the tree crown, and maybe an artificial wind blowing them on the other page. In this way the two pages were going to be connected like one big drawing. But then I saw a video from thich, sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name. She made a cherry blossom drawing with markers and water, and it looks stunning, and I thought that this could be really useful for bullet journals, especially those with not that thick paper. I've seen similar technique also used by Shia Fury, another amazing bullet journalist and talented artist, and she does watercolor paints combined with watercolor pencils. It is very interesting way of coloring stuff, and I advise you to check her YouTube channel as well. I'm gonna leave them down in the description. So back to the cover. As I was inspired by this artist, I actually changed my idea from only one tree to many branches. So let me plan this right now. Here I like to have my calendar for sure, and I write Hello April, of course. I would like to have something around this calendar, and this one I want to be a cherry blossom branch, actually many branches maybe. We're gonna have one here, and I'm gonna sketch it really quick. The main branch and the little ones. And I will do another branch from the bottom the corner page right here. Actually, I would like the upper one to be longer, to start more from the left. I even sketched the main cherry blossom clusters as circles so I can have them in my mind when I start coloring. As I have a lot of free space here on the left page, probably I'm gonna do, you know what? A quote. Okay, so we have this here. And as the cherry blossom is from Japan, I'm going to do a building right here, like their traditional temple pagoda or something else. I'm going to do a quick sketch. So yes, basically this is going to be my cover page right here, and to make it I'm going to use only these 2 water-based markers and a brush and a water as well. Before we start coloring, I want to explain some basic techniques for the cherry blossom drawing that you should know before we start. We go back to our pen test page where usually we do all our experiments. We do a quick sketch of a branch as well, and now I'm going to show you a few mistakes that you can do while recreating this spread. Mistake number 1 is to do the tree with constantly connected branches. If doing so, even after you draw the flowers, the branches will be the one in front. You can avoid the mistake by leaving the small gaps between some of the branches. I will show you the mistake in more details right now. Here we have another branch, and then we do the flowers. And you see how the branch is always going to be in front of the flowers? And let's be honest, when you see a tree, you see first its flowers and then behind them the branches. But if you do it other way around, first the flowers and then the branches, it will be way more difficult to do, as you need to cover the very details around the flowers, really. To do a beautiful cherry blossom, we need to mix between those 2 styles, and right now I'm gonna show you how. We start sketching the branches and then we skip a bit, and then we're going to have another branch, and then we're gonna skip again, and we do the same with the rest of the branches. You see all the empty space we left? When we finish the branch and start coloring the pink, we can add a cherry blossoms right here, and you'll notice how the cherry blossoms are in front of the branches, and in the meantime we have a nice fluent branch right here. In short, this is the technique. Right now we're going to draw it on the cover page, and I'm going to explain a few more details of how to make your cherry blossom theme stunning. Here we go. I start with the first branch. I wanted to cover both pages because in this way I unite them into one whole picture. With light straight moves, I start the thick part of the branch, trying not to fill it all over yet, so later I will have the freedom to decide what I want to do with it, whether to leave it white to have a contrast or to fill it all. But I'll decide this at a later stage after I make the flowers. Now I'm starting to branch the branches into smaller ones. In my opinion, an important technique here for successful branches is to relax your wrist and let the soft tip of the marker make curly shapes as you can see here. No tree has completely straight branches, and in this way in some places the branch thins and then thickens, and so when we draw the flowers we can make an illusion as we are looking at the branches from different angles. So it is in real life if you think about it. The branches are not turned in one direction so that you can see them perfectly all the time. Somewhere they bend, and this bending in perspective you see it in a different way. And because I still don't have the full picture of this theme in my head, I let my brush and tourist improvise. Another thing that you will probably notice is how I leave the empty spaces in the branches that I told you about earlier, and later we will fill them with sweet pink flowers. If you look at a real cherry blossom tree, like this one here, you'll notice that the flowers come out from the top of the branches. And this means that for our convenience, it is good to make small twigs on each large branch. Don't make the mistake of leaving only big branches. The more small twigs we have, the easier it is for us to draw the flowers later. Another important thing for the branches is that they can branch in two different ways. The first one is from one branch to grow two identical branches, smaller ones. And the second is from one branch that branched into a smaller branch. I know it's kinda complicated, but in order for the tree to look natural, it is good to mix both types of branching. Here you can see the first type, from one big branch to small ones, and here is the second time where from one big branch there is going another a bit smaller. I hope you got the idea. And now I'm going to make the branch below the calendar. It's gonna be with a little different style than the upper one, just for you to see the difference between the two styles of painting. I make the lower branch a little more curly, a little more freestyle, again relaxing my wrist when drawing. You see more curved shapes are obtained from the upper tree. The good thing about painting trees is that literally you have nowhere to go wrong. There are all kinds of trees, from curly to straight. Well, they are not completely straight ones, just remember that. I decorate the word April with black thin liner of Micron 005. By the way, a curious detail is that our favorite Microns actually have a cherry blossom flower on them. Going back to April, last year I realized that I really like this font very much because it adds interesting details to the letters. We'll pay more attention to it in the next video where we're gonna make our weekly spreads. And finally we came to the coloring of the flowers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where the magic happens. I start with the soft tip of the pink marker to place the flowers on the tips of the smallest twigs. I start with about 6 or 7 flowers on different clusters of flowers, then leave the marker aside and take the brush with a bit of water and start carefully with a light touch to spread the color of the flowers I drew. And to get a beautiful look of very small flowers of different shapes of pink, it is really important not just to spread the pink color with the brush, but to slightly touch with the tip of the brush to create dots. Every time you touch the tip of the brush, the color fades and creates a nice gradient color. It takes a little longer, I know, because you're doing literally every flower one by one, but the result is worth it, I guarantee you. I continue with the other flowers. I put them on all the little twigs. That's why in the beginning I mentioned that it will be much easier for you if you draw the small twigs at the end of the branches. While painting them, I use a different angle of the marker, and so some flowers are in the shape of dot and other in the shape of a drop. By combining all the methods I told you so far, I try not to make the picture look monotonous, to not look as if one branch is a complete copy of the other branch. There are no two identical things in the nature, so if you're painting flowers, trees, plants, you should always strive to change a small details that distinguish them from all others. After I drew most of the flowers, you can now notice that I actually filled the blanks we left in the beginning, those in the branches, and right now there is an illusion created that the flowers are in front of the branch. You can see it right here. And in fact, here is the moment to explain a mistake that I made in the beginning. That first I painted all the flowers and then I tried to spread them with water. It turned out much better if I drew 4 or 5 flowers and immediately after that I spread them with water, thus the paint is not completely dry and allows for easier application. And at the moment you can see my failure to spread the paint after waiting too long for it to dry. For this I even had to add more flowers with the marker just so I could scatter them around, which was double work. With a certain delay, we already have one branch ready. I added some falling flowers to fill the free space and also after the page dried, I added small scattered pink dots around the flowers to make it a little more magical. I think that these little dots contribute a lot to the beauty of Sakura, so if you recreate this theme, do not miss them. As I've talked a lot, I'm gonna sum up all the important points I told you in the past, 10 minutes. So first we draw the branches, second we leave an empty space between them for flowers, we paint them with a relaxed wrist to make them more interesting, we paint the flowers with different angle of the paintbrush, we paint fewer flowers at one cluster so we can quickly spread them with water, and here I add another one, we leave a white space. To be honest, even though we paint with markers, there is still a watercolor technique here, and as you always repeat, watercolor is beautiful when there is a space left to see the background. The last thing you want is for your tree to look like a pink spot. Therefore, leave a little space between the flowers, and if you think that the white space is too big, fill it with the pink dots or draw a small flower in the middle, but don't just pink it all draw it all pink. Meanwhile, if you like this video so far, don't forget to give it a like or even subscribe to the channel. I would be more than happy to have you here and journal together. Since my left page looks pretty blank, I'm going to draw another branch right here. In fact, while painting this theme, I had time to think that I don't really know anything about the cherry blossom. This is my favorite theme for April, but apart from the fact that cherry blossom is happening in Japan, I don't know anything else. That's why, in addition to the few hours of painting this theme, I also spent a few hours of looking for facts and interesting story about Sakura, which by the way is the Japanese name of cherry blossom. It turned out that this phenomenon is not observed only in Japan, but in many other parts of the world, but I will talk about this in a moment. Before I start, I want to emphasize that the cherry blossom is not related to a specific type of tree, but to the event of blooming. In fact, there are many types of trees that contribute to the whole cherry blossom effect. This is why you notice that many of the trees have different colors and shapes. Some are whiter, others are more saturated pinkish, and of course there are all shades between those two colors. In short, if you have enough time to look into the details, you immediately notice the difference between the trees. Well, most of us prefer to enjoy the overall effect of the cherry blossom and we don't look into the details. Still, it's beautiful, like the branch that we just made right now. You know, in every spread I try to have a contrasting detail, and this time it will be a sketch of the Japanese temples. It is extremely easy to draw it as it is made of several squares on top of each other, separated by a roof. Japanese people, please forgive me for this explanation of your pagodas, but I try to explain it easy. To make it small three-dimensional building, I paint the pagoda as if I'm looking at it from below. You can see how the roof is actually divided into upper and lower part, and of course the lower part is darker because it's shady. Of course I add a quote, and this time it is inspired by the book Ikigai, The Japanese Art of Living. In principle, I'm not a fan of books that tell us how to live our life because each of us is different and there is no way a book can fix our lives. But this book Ikigai really impressed me. I will talk more about it in the next video where we're gonna do our weekly spreads, so make sure to check that one too. With the quote we finished the cover. This is the final result and I think that is great compared to the easy technique. Now we turn the page and continue with the monthly trackers. I will make a daily stuff tracker on the left, but it will be in another video because I wanted to make a whole explanatory of how this tracker works. So if you're interested, you can take a look at these links in the description. For now, I will leave the left side free. On the right side, I want to have a goal field, a calendar field, and a brain dump. The template I used in March was quite convenient, so I'll use the same. One large square for brain dump and two smaller ones for calendar and goals. Again, I sketch a branch at the bottom of the page so that it covers both the right page and the left page. I'm deliberately trying to cover both of the pages with at least one shared branch so that I can somehow visually merge them into one and not get like two pages alone, if you understand me. I quickly draw the calendar and two of the goals filled lines. I will make the rest of the lines later so I can place them under the trees. I also sketch the second branch and start with coloring as we did on the last page. Another interesting thing about Sakura is that they don't have cherries. Yes, I was also surprised by this fact because I expected sooner or later these flowers to bear some eatable fruit, like cherries. Despite the fact that it does not grow fruits, the Sakura is very symbolic of Japanese culture. It is symbol of rebirth, flowering, new beginning, and etc. I guess that is just a symbolic that the children in Japan don't actually start school in September like most of us do, but in April just during the cherry blossom. Honestly, if I was forced to start school during the cherry blossom, I wouldn't remember it with good vibes. As I mentioned earlier, Sakura is not only found in Japan, even according to biologists, its roots come from Nepal, but I couldn't find a reliable source for this information, so accept it as a legend. Nowadays, Sakura can be seen in many countries around the world, and yet the largest Sakura gardens are located in Asia. However, to my great surprise, it turned out that there is a large Sakura garden in Washington, D.C. The trees were originally donated by Japan in 1910, but because of some kind of parasites, they had to burn almost the entire batch. Still, they managed to save some of the trees, and nowadays they can be seen in several parks that I will link in the description if you're curious where you can see them. And wherever the destination is, the peak of the cherry blossom season is at the end of the March or at the beginning of the April and lasts about 10 days. And if you're wondering what actually means the peak season, well, this is when over 70% of the flowers have bloomed. In Japan, there is a special site that serves as a map of the country when and where there is a peak season of Sakura. Usually, Japanese people love to have a picnic under the Sakura, so you as a tourist can do it as well, but don't expect the atmosphere to be like those Instagram photos, only you between 1000 Sakura trees. No, it looks more like this. Yes, sometimes we need to break the Instagram reality, but no worries guys. Cherry blossom is still enjoyable and I wish that everybody of you have the chance to visit Japan and enjoy the whole cherry blossom thing. Well, we are actually ready with our monthly trackers page. If you like this video so far, consider giving it a like or even subscribing to the channel. Twice a month I will post videos like this, so I will not spam your homepage a lot. And thank you for staying till the end, guys. Make sure to check out also the next video where we're gonna do our weekly spreads for this theme, and I'm gonna talk more about the Japanese way of living the life based on the Ikigai book, as I told you about. It's really interesting topic, so I'm gonna see you there. Till then, don't forget to stay on the sunny side.